Welcome, everybody. I'm Ralph Preston, and on Tuesdays, we have our Stroke Buddies Stroke Recovery Support Group meeting, and we try and do things based on recovery and science because good information is key to recovery. So that's what we try and provide you with. And today we've got Abbe Simon. Abbe's a bunch of different things. Let's see, she's a speech and language pathologist, an integrated health coach, and most recently, a yoga teacher. And she's going to talk about a few things today that go beyond what your doctor tells you. So I'll let her I'll let her give her presentation rather than tell you what we're going to talk about. So Abbe, it's all yours.
Thank you, Ralph. Happy October, everybody. I don't know if we're all in different time zones, but I am on the East Coast, so it is 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, October 1st. Are any of you guys on different time zones where it's even earlier? A lot of you, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wendy's all the way in California. As Jimmy Carter's 100th birthday today.
Oh, anybody else have a October event or highlight that they want to acknowledge? Central time zone. Okay. I love seeing everybody's faces come off blocked video. I love everybody coming back on to see you all. As Ralph said, I am Abbe Simon, and I do a lot of things, as he said, but all of those things together are combined so that I can help people who are impacted by stroke. And when I say people impacted, I mean someone who had a stroke directly, right? If it happened in your brain, or whether or not you know somebody who had a stroke and your life is impacted as well. So we'll find out a little bit about each other at some point, but I just want you to appreciate that when a stroke happens, as you probably all know, I'm preaching to the choir, it doesn't just affect that individual. Yes, it's that individual who leaves the doctor's office or leaves the hospital or rehab center with a pile of papers and a few prescriptions about what you all can do. And I imagine some of you here who have had a stroke have been living with it for many months or years and have found a way to adapt your life so that they are purposeful and fulfilling. And my job as a speech pathologist is to work with individuals who have acquired communication disorders, specifically aphasia or trouble pronouncing words called dysarthria or apraxia. But for our purpose today, I'm not going to focus too much on my speech pathology approach, but rather my approach as a health coach and yoga teacher so that we can acknowledge how attainable it is to still be healthy, enjoy what you eat, enjoy how you do things, and still be well, no matter if it's days, weeks, months, or years after a stroke. And I want to get a sense, though, from anybody here who wants to share how long you've been living with a stroke or the effects of a stroke, and if you feel that life today is any different than it was when you first or know someone who was first diagnosed. Does anyone want to either raise their hand if they're living with a stroke or the effects of? Anybody here?
I think most everybody here.
Okay. So, well, sometimes stroke support groups bring people that are care partners, and sometimes people have had a stroke themselves. So I just wanted to get a sense of whom I was speaking. Let me just check this little message. So we'll focus on Stephanie. I love the highlight of staying alive. I think that is key. We all want to stay alive, and we should play that song, Staying Alive, Staying Alive. That's a good background. That's a great idea. We want to stay alive and we want to stay alive, but enjoy the process. And I think when someone has a stroke and then they're like, oh my God, what caused the stroke? My blood pressure was high. I had something that I did to have caused it by eating poorly. There's something structural in my body. Obviously, stroke has no rhyme or reason. We know there are pre-existing factors, but sometimes it hits even the healthiest person who eats only spinach, kale, and whole wheat bread. But regardless of the cause, I'm here to talk about the attainable ways that you can still live happily and healthy without sacrificing too much. And we'll emphasize the yoga that I call stroga, because people think that yoga is either woo-woo meditation or doing a headstand for 10 minutes. But I'll share with you that yoga is much more than just that. So before I share a slide or two, does anybody have anything to ask or say before I continue to talk?
Stephanie's got her hand up. You have to unmute yourself, Stephanie.
Thank you. Uh, Good morning, everyone. My name is Stephanie Capel. I've had 10 strokes in the past 4 years. Not a record I'm shooting for, but yeah. So you asked like how has it affected my life? I think, or our lives. I think for me, it's been like the speech is like my speech has been affected definitely, and also being able to move around my mobility, and just vacillating between different mobility aids, such as a walker and a cane. So I think the adjustment has been still being able to do things, but just having to adjust for speed and ability and my own expectations. So
That's an awesome word to say, expectations. And I think that our own expectations and the expectations of others often sort of collide, especially when we had a lot of expectations that might be different after a stroke has shown up. And so what I like to tell people is, if we were dealing with someone who wasn't able to tolerate a bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich after a stroke because their chewing and swallowing was affected, I'd say, I don't want you to avoid the bacon, lettuce, tomato, bread, mayonnaise, because that would be too much of a deprivation. But how can we just alter the way it's prepared, how much it's toasted? Maybe it has to be mushed up, but to not um, omit something, but rather modify something. And that could pertain to physical mobility too. And I'm not going to sugarcoat things. Some people who have a stroke obviously have physical limitations that really do prevent them from doing things. We've got to be honest. But I then say life after stroke doesn't have to suck, depending on how open you are to modify the things you were doing before. So you can feel sorry for ourselves and say, well, I'm not going to do something at all because I can't do it the way I once did, or change that mindset, which I do a lot of work with, just switching the way you say it by saying, well, I'm going to do it this way. What can you do as opposed to what you can't? All right. So thank you for bringing up that word expectation, because it's great to have an expectation of ourselves, which could be like a goal or something we're working towards achieving, but being a little more gentle and saying, I might not be able to expect to do something just exactly the way I want it. And I know you all know that. How many of you have been living with stroke for more than 3 years? Okay. How many of you have been living with stroke for less than 1 year? I got 1 year, Brian. Okay. I have to say, I'm looking at everyone, but there's this fascination I'm having with Mindy, who I guess some of you know, as she listens and multitasks and creates. And I'm just so super enthralled with what's going on over there, because what she is proving is that after her stroke, and it seems like she's preferencing her left side, that she's doing these unbelievable paintings. Maybe your right hand is there, I'm not sure, but I'm watching you. Is it contributing? I can't see that right side, but she's doing everything with her left hand, sliding the canvas, doing everything. And I'm just amazed. You all might know her already, I presume.
Oh yeah. She had to learn how to paint with her left hand. She's right hand dominant, and right was her affected side. And she won't brag because she's modest and a wonderful person. But that's no small accomplishment, learning how to paint with a hand that you've never
Well,
done.
and the way you modified even the canvas and the tripod, how you're sliding it back and forth. And I see in the background, let's all just pick on Mindy. But Mindy, I see the painting next to your right. Is that one completed?
It's finished, yes. It's got a lot of glitter. It's very vibrant. Well, I finished a very serious painting a while ago, and it was sickening to be very serious. So I wanted to do something fun and not worry so much about reality, but just fun and take it from there. So I hope you don't mind that I'm busy while I'm listening to you.
I
I
love
am,
it. I
I
love it.
am,
I kind of think that one in the background that I can see looks like a horse, or
It is.
maybe it's something abstract. I can't tell what it is. Now that you said it was fun, it has glitter. I don't think it's a horse, but it from here looks like some horse dancing or something. All right.
yes,
So
oh, really,
it's
thank
really
you.
amazing to see. And I think proof that neuroplasticity, which is a word I'm sure all of you discuss weekly and monthly, is right in front of us. She retrained her adult brain to do something new. And that is proof in the pudding right there. Better to me than having someone I work with make a whole paragraph of written or spoken sentences because she's enjoying it and we're enjoying it with her. All right. So that's enough of that little introduction. We talked about my roles, but we're going to just discuss today how what does living healthy after a stroke mean, especially once the doctor has sort of said, "All right, I'll see you guys. See you back here in 3 months, 6 months, or maybe a year or two," right? What do we do after the doctor has sort of let us free? I like to say that no matter how a stroke has affected you, to prioritize what is important. So this is just a little bit about me as Ralph introduced, but I love green food. I love chocolate chip cookies. I love being with my family and I love being by myself. And no matter what I have to do to give and take, I want to set my priorities so that everybody in my life knows them, as I believe people who live after stroke should too. So this word neuroplasticity, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about it because what I'm discussing today about being healthy requires that the brain does do some change and that the pathways in the brain are recreated. So raise your hands if you're familiar with neuroplasticity and if you believe in it. Okay, you all believe in it. That's good. How many of you are proof of neuroplasticity? My God, see, we could end right now and tell all the doctors who ever say, you know what, you have 3 to 6 months and then you'll reach your maximum potential. Well, that's certainly not true, and you're all proof of it. Exactly, Judy. So not true. We know it. We should just go out and preach it a little bit more often. So even after, so you might be saying, oh, Abby, you're going to tell me something new I can do. I've been living this way for 3, 4 years. I'm fine, just like this. And we can reach we can reach success, but we can go beyond something that's successful to reach our maximum potential. So something can be good because it's achieving what you want, but can you go a little bit beyond and go for something that's a little uncomfortable and cause more change in your brain by doing something you've never done before? And that's what neuroplasticity benefits from, just taking it up a notch and doing something repetitively and doing something successfully and doing something extremely meaningful. Here, you guys know this. The adult brain can change. We don't change the size of the brain, but we change its capability. So let's just think about what it means to be healthy. This is a diagram I use when I talk to people that I'm coaching about health. And just take a look at the rainbow And sometimes people talk about the rainbow of the fruits and vegetables that we eat and try to get in many of them. But healthy doesn't just mean following a low sodium diet. Healthy doesn't mean getting 5,000 steps a day. Healthy means doing something that fulfills you, whether it's spiritually, whether it's financially, whether it's religious, creative, whatever floats your boat, those contribute to health. But so many people dietarily focus on the ways you have to monitor your medication, your food, and your exercise. We have to remember how important it is to do things like we are, which is have social connection. And that is a huge contributor of health, as is, and I don't know what the research was, but on the news the other day, I heard, and again, I'm not telling you information you don't already know, the benefit of listening to music and what it does to the brain. So when people say, I had a stroke, I have nothing to do, I'm sitting home, no one's paying attention to me, I can't do this, I can't do, think of the things you can do that also contribute to brain health and overall health, which means listening to music. And you might be like, oh, come on, that's so boring. I'm just sitting there. But it's actually doing good things for you. And again, please keep in mind, I know I'm telling a group of people who know about this information. I'm just sort of working us up to the yoga part. So just look at
Can I comment for a minute?
please, Bruce.
Yeah, Ruthann, I'm talking on here. I'm sorry, my wife heard me. I know you're a speech pathologist. You might or might not be aware of a study that was conducted in Finland, I'm guessing 5 years ago, on the benefits of music in treating Broca's aphasia.
You betcha.
And basically, the study involved first-time stroke patients, and right after the stroke, these patients had Broca's or expressive aphasia, in which they had problems communicating.
Mhm.
They were randomly divided into 3 groups. One group listened to vocal music, that is, singing. I don't remember the exact amount of time, but it was like 2 hours a day for 2 months, I'm guessing. A second group listened to instrumental music for the same amount of time. And the third group listened to basically books on tape that is talking for the same amount of time. After, I think it was 2 months, there was some time off. I'll say a month. I read the study, but I just can't remember the details now. And then they were all tested again. And it turns out the group that listened to the singing, the vocal music, were significantly better than the other 2 groups in talking, and functional MRI images of their left frontal lobe showed enhanced axonal pathways compared to the other 2 groups.
Yes.
So that seems to me to be sort of a gold standard now for treating Broca's aphasia.
Beautiful contribution. And not only listening, but what happens when you listen is, especially if the music is familiar, the lyrics rather, people that are non-fluent. So for those of you that aren't familiar with that word Broca, Broca is a man, and we classify a type of aphasia using the word to represent someone that speaks, but with effort. And when someone sings, we incorporate something called melodic intonation therapy. And if any of you have had Broca's aphasia or know someone that has, you might be able to attest to when you're trying to say something, it's easier if you sing. And that's because of the connection, or the interhemispheric connection, recruiting more of the right brain that focuses on melody and pitch and rhythm, and allowing the left and right brain to work in connection. to intercross, to cross over and cause the singing to help the word production.
Yes, and I should probably point out also that for the people that listen to the vocal music, they got to choose the genre that they liked. So if they wanted country western or popular or classic, whatever it was that they wanted, opera, whatever they wanted, that was what the type of music they
Right.
listened
And
to,
so why do you think that made a difference, right?
because it was more interesting to them.
And personally relevant. So
Yes.
when I work with someone, sorry, Ralph, go ahead.
So no, say also familiar.
Right.
I
When
know
relevance.
I know somebody who got their speech back by her sister played her favorite songs, and in the very beginning she just started mouthing the choruses and singing along with the choruses, eventually singing along. Well,
Mhm.
I'll give you back the floor in a sec. While I got it, I'll tell everybody who, if anybody out there is not aware, we did 5 Zoom meetings with MedRhythms on neurologic music therapy, an overview, cognition, sensory motor, walking, and of course, language. So they're all on my YouTube channel. And we also have a neurologic music therapy group. So if that's a subject that interests you, and Abby, I'll talk to you about this offline, but when we did the speech one with Caitlin Hebb, she somebody an SLP contacted me and said that was really good, and something about she'd love to know more about it. And I had the idea to put her and Caitlin together and talk about how to use neurologic music therapy in your SLP practice. So I additionally thought about you, haven't had a chance to talk to you about it. It wouldn't be more for language, and you may already do this, but the point would be to discuss the different ways and then bring that to other speech and language pathologists so that they could integrate an NMT into their practice. And so
Yeah. Yes. And people, I would say people, speech pathologists that specialize in the realm of aphasia, like I do, I think should know when and when not to rely on using music or melodic intonation therapy as a strategy or even impairment-based way to address non-fluent speech. It's very helpful, as is if someone can't produce words as easily, just doing rhythmic, and you were, going like this, but just adding any kind of rhythm and beat also helps finding a cadence.
all right.
And that it's kind of like, it makes me think of, when we think of the word neurological, you said neurological music therapy, but what's fascinating about people who are addressing acquired neurological deficits, there's a lot of overlap. So people with Parkinson's disease that have speech issues often benefit from doing things big and loud, and you may be familiar with that. We find that people with apraxia or dysarthria, motor speech impairments after a stroke, when they are engaging in big and loud therapy, it also helps. So we have to recognize when one thing is prescribed for one person, it may or may not be beneficial to someone else. So it's really good to make sure whomever you're working with knows about different neurological approaches and ways to consider each of your needs and not think there's just one prescription for all of it, which is to say too, as I'm speaking with my health coach hat on, some people after a stroke find themselves down a rabbit hole thinking about all different alternative ways to improve their brain health or their body function, supplements, functional medicine, brain mapping, acupuncture, seances, I don't know. But what we have to remember is what works for someone who had a stroke that's taking some kind of supplement or doing some kind of therapy might not be what your body will benefit from and even respond to. So it's just really important that whenever you're listening to someone who's making a suggestion, you take into consideration that there might be some sort of contraindications or waste of time for you to be doing what they are. Okay. However, we can all, let's see where we are. So we looked at this, but notice here, that part of being healthy from an integrative sense is simply by noticing how much joy you have in your life. That is just as important as to the healthy food on your plate. It's just as important as how neatly you keep your home environment. So all of these things together contribute to someone's overall health, barring, of course, the medicine and all of the prescriptions that one might adhere to. And that brings me to my emphasis on yoga. And I know that this group has an amazing opportunities to engage in yoga. And you've done chair yoga and all different ways of stretching your body and moving it. And I think a lot of people consider this to be yoga. So I don't know if any of you would ever thought that you could do something like that. It's quite unattainable for most human beings. But this is yoga too. So look at the difference. Because yoga has, and I wasn't really big on this when I started my yoga journey 20 years ago. I only thought that yoga was this. So look over here where this pink circle is. And this talks about the movement, how you move your body. However, real quote unquote yoga, I'll put little quotes around this, has 8 parts to it. And I'm not going to sit here and talk about how we're going to get into this blissful state. I'm not going to do a crazy meditation, but I want you to look at this where it says concentration. And I want you to look here where it talks about pranayama, which is working with the breath. And I want you to look here where it talks about your senses. Oh, look what Ralph has. Show us again. There are the 8 limbs of yoga. So Ralph is a yogi. Raise your hand, either virtually or with it, whether or not you've ever done quote unquote yoga. Raise your hands if you think yoga is so woo-woo and an absolute waste of time. Brian, Carla, raise your hand. Oh, you think it's woo-woo, Carla? You're on board? Wait, I can't hear you. Wait. Can you unmute her?
Yoga. I just need to work on flexibility.
Okay, no, but I think Carla was saying. What'd you say?
Quiche.
Quiche?
Yes,
What do you mean?
I'm making quiche.
Oh, right now?
Yes.
She's making quiche. Mindy's making art. Who else is multitasking? Talk about good Okay. Judy, are you having
If
a
I
conversation?
if I could interrupt here,
Wait, hold on, Bruce. Hold that thought. Judy, you brought up your phone. Are you joining another meeting at the same time on your phone?
No, I'm checking my email.
Okay, I'm so good. I'm engaging all of you. Should we just stop talking right now? I'm just kidding. It's so good to be able to focus on 2 things. That's yoga.
well, okay, I'll take a different perspective.
Okay.
It's my view that multitasking is a myth. Now, Ralph, are you on there, Ralph?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's there.
Okay, I've got another PowerPoint that you've never seen that's not directly related to stroke. It's called Magic, Mentalism, and the Mind. And in that, among other things, I discuss multitasking and point out it's a myth. For example, that's why magicians will tell a joke when someone's laughing and their eyes are rolling. They can't really concentrate on what you're doing with your hands, so they miss the critical move in the magic trick. So,
Bruce
but
is
again,
a magician, by the way.
Yeah.
Bruce is a magician?
Yeah, I make my audience disappear.
Oh,
He also tells bad jokes.
Thank you.
I will just say, I'm not sure about using the word myth, but I can absolutely agree that multitasking is often harmful and that not everybody should or even try to do it.
Well, if you compare the ability to do a single task in a linear fashion versus trying to do that task while also doing something else, when you're just concentrating on that task, you do significantly better.
Of course, but there are certain, go ahead, Ralph.
I was gonna say, I used to watch something called Brain Games on Nat Geo. They should never have taken it off. They did do some magic tricks and sleight of hand to, but the one thing so this Czechoslovakian guy, I think, who claims to be the world's best multitasker. So they got him and they stuck him in a car and they put headphones or talked to him through his phone. They put him on a track that had snow on it. They threw like 6-foot beach balls at him, and he drove all over the place. He drove off the track. He could not multitask. So what I've read, and Dr. Hetzler's the neuroscientist, not me, is that the way the brain works is even when you think you're multitasking, you're switching back and forth quickly between tasks. That the brain typically works on one task at a time, and people are multitasking or switching around a lot. I don't know. Is that what you think, Dr. Hetzler?
Pretty much your left hemisphere in particular is a very linear hemisphere. That's one that does the talking and the thinking. The right hemisphere is more holistic, but people typically, when they're solving problems, writing a paper, giving a talk, are using their left hemisphere, which is linear, logical, mathematically based. You can't solve a difficult equation if you're also trying to tell a joke.
Multitasking is what Mindy's doing, but multitasking is chewing gum while you're scrambling your eggs, and multitasking is having the radio on while you vacuum. So I don't mean multitask by literally going from balancing your bills and then saying I'm going to write back everybody on my email. That might be good for people that have executive function struggles where we want to alternate or divide attention. That's where multitasking might be something beneficial to work toward, because again, it's helping the brain achieve something harder, creating new pathways. Multitasking, like you said, Dr. Hetzler, is also a way to lose focus and make errors because you're distracted. So I don't want people to think multitasking, if you're a magician, is juggling the balls and hopping on one foot for sure. But it really also is something that might be calming, like in Mindy's situation. I think she's just allowing this conversation in the background to use her creative right brain as well.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
I understand.
Well, I'm appreciative. I'm not discounting it, but I am thought provoking. And I think that Stephanie wants to say something.
Sorry, my finger got with me. I was gonna say it just sounds like when you have a computer, your computer, and it has like multiple tabs, and then you're trying to like do things in different tabs. And then, like I said, in some ways it's good, it's therapeutic, but in some ways it can be harmful. And it's just differentiating which one is harmful, which tabs you really need, and which tabs are just like open for whatever reason.
Mhm.
I'm speaking personally because I probably have multiple tabs on my computer open right now.
Well, what are you doing right now in addition to talking with us?
Oh, I'm just listening because I need to stay focused.
So interesting talking about, as I'm looking at some of you, I feel like I know I've spoken to this group once before, but some of you are looking more familiar to me. Like Brian, we've met, right?
Can you hear me, Amy?
Yeah, but have you ever met me before?
No, I've been only to, well, this is the third time I joined one of the calls. I suffered a stroke exactly a year ago, October 1st of 2023.
Oh, so we've never
This is
met.
the third call that I joined.
Okay. I don't know, Bruce, I think I don't know, I'm looking at you more and more now that I'm looking at the gallery screen, everybody. Um, Someone just said something. Oh,
Carly,
Jerry.
yeah.
Oh, Ralph, did you see someone raise their hand?
Carly's got her hand up.
Oh.
I just want to say that I agree with Stephanie. It depends on what you're doing. If you can, like quiche, I know that with the back by the back of my hand, so I can make quiche and listen. I have the volume up, and the quiche takes me a little bit longer to make post stroke, but I know the steps. So it's almost like learning to walk again. If I do the quiche and listen to the presentation and it comes out good, I know I can always make quiche and listen.
Can you tell us 3 or 4 ingredients in the quiche?
I put nutmeg in my quiche, and I use any cheese, white cheese, Swiss cheese, green onions, which I've already chopped up. So I prep a lot, and of course, eggs, and I'm using oat milk instead of cow's milk.
Is that a
And
change you made after your stroke?
yes.
Mhm.
And
So
I
that's a
still
great,
missing the milk used to bloat me up. I didn't eat it that frequently, but I find my grandson and I made some almond milk, and it was very easy to make.
you need a lot of almonds though. It gets so expensive.
Yes, but I have them all here. I'm a baker, post and pre. I mean, I wanted to continue because being in the kitchen makes me happy. I had a little setback, but I'm on it again. I don't let anything try to get me down. As
Love
my
it.
daughter said, are you cooking this evening or I am?
Awesome.
So I like that she asked, and everybody eats the food. That's good, even with the changes.
Everybody here wants a piece of the quiche. So is there a
Well,
way that
I don't
people
know.
are messaging? Do you live near anybody that's in this room?
I don't think so.
Well, you probably know, though, that real men don't eat quiche.
Oh, they don't?
Unless what? What would be in it that a real man would agree to eat?
That was the name of a book from many years ago.
Oh, okay.
Real men don't eat quiche. Sorry about that.
I'm putting spinach in this.
I eat quiche.
Oh, I love quiche, but that was the name of a popular
Oh,
book.
I remember the name of the book. Seems
I
like
was thinking he was going to say that men will eat quiche if there's sausage and some bacon and ham and hot chili peppers and a really thick crust.
No meat, but I am putting hot sauce in it also.
Raise your hand.
Carl,
Go ahead.
I made quiche yesterday.
Oh, good.
I had a dilemma. I filled up the shells and then I wasn't strong enough to put it in the oven. And I was brainstorming, how could I get this quiche in the oven? If I move it, I'll spill it. If I pick it up, I won't be able to. It's too heavy. So I had to reach out to my friends and say, help me out. I'm trying to problem solve. What can I do? A soup ladle will just do it.
Yeah.
So how did you get it into the oven?
I waited. I ended up having to wait for someone to help me. So I waited.
That is
It's
really
okay to ask for help.
somebody had a good idea on your post, and they said put put the quiche in the oven, pull it out, and then pour the custard in on top.
Mhm.
So you know,
Oh, yes, that's right. Yes.
I make
It's
them
good.
2 at a time. Well, I've got pretty good function with both hands. I make them 2 at a time, put them on a sheet pan in case they overflow, and I just put the whole sheet pan in. But you know, then again, like you know, I'm doing okay with my hand.
I think with
Not only do you
anything, it's
eat quiche,
problem solving. I think it's problem solving
Mhm.
too, right?
problem solving and noticing the truths, right? You knew that in order to get that very full dish into the oven, you would need it to be balanced. And so that wasn't admitting that you were taking the easy way out. It was just not possible to do it because it was so full. So the problem was solved easily by your observation.
Now, in terms of the woman that originally talked about making the quiche, and I think she mentioned, well, she could listen to music or whatever while she was making it, but her making the quiche at this point has become subconscious.
Right.
That is, she does not have to think about it.
Wrote.
It's
Mhm.
become an automatic motor event, and her brain just goes through the sequence without any thinking about it. And there's quite a difference between that sort of motor performance as in comparison to learning a new task where you have to think about every movement in order to do it.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
going to say it seems like multitasking is works better with things that you're real familiar with. You know,
Well, but I think what you're saying, Dr. Hetzler, is the word rote, like brushing your teeth or chewing gum and singing happy birthday. Those things, whether they're your subconscious or automatized, right?
Yes.
They're automatic, they're reflexive. I wonder though with Carly when she's making the quiche and deciding how much green onion to put in, when to add the nutmeg, how to add the hot sauce. I think it's, and I'm not being or trying to question what you were saying, but she probably has to think a little bit more than someone who was doing a less multi-step task, right? Like Carly, I'm curious, do you feel like when you're making the quiche, you're just like, well, whatever, throwing things in and not thinking about it? Or are you mindful about how much you're measuring, not to cut your fingers, how much to whip the eggs?
kept on mute again.
I'm mindful, but I think that the best thing when you're baking or cooking is to have all of your ingredients prepped, and then you can just pull them in. Like if this was my first time cake, I wouldn't be on making a cake and listening.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Right.
too distractive.
Right. So it's become rote and yeah. So it's yeah, let's Jerry.
Well, I cook a lot, and I've noticed that if I'm making a new recipe, if I don't talk on the phone much when I'm cooking for this very reason, because if I'm making something new, it takes me like 3 times as long as it should if I'm talking on the phone. If I'm making something that I made before, it takes me only a little bit longer, I guess, because it's partially because it's more automatic and less thinking. So I've noticed that, and I typically don't talk when I'm on the phone. I talk when I'm cooking, because especially something new. Because one time I looked and I talked for a while, and I noticed it'd taken 2 hours, and I should have been able to make what I was doing in like 45 minutes.
That's stroke or non-stroke related. That's just being a human.
Right,
That's just
right.
understandable, I think. Let's I just wanted to know, hi Jerry,
Hey,
how are you?
all right.
Have you made any dietary changes or food prep or things that you eat since your stroke?
A huge amount. I've lost about 20 pounds because um, had the threat of being pre-diabetic. So I cut back on all the sweet stuff, and I also eat more plant-based foods like Impossible burgers, stuff like that. I rapidly changed my diet.
Do you feel like you're missing out on something?
I have my cheat day once a week. So then I may eat a hamburger or something like that. So I don't feel deprived. So I'm okay.
Okay. All right. Let's just, I just looked at the time. I want to focus. Does anyone have anything else related to food or cooking or multitasking that they wanted to add? I just wanted, I really like, Ralph, that you had that 8 limbs of yoga held up. And do any of you take some of the yoga group classes through Stroke Buddies?
Yeah, my sister-in-law teaches a class, Winnie was here earlier. She and I've been doing it almost 4 years, and we've done other stroke adaptive chair yoga classes that I have on my YouTube channel, and I'm getting ready to do something called Yoga Bites that are sort of yoga. They're not workouts, they're not exercise, but they're kind of short. They're gonna be 10, 12 minutes, and they're gonna focus on something like the neck. So you can do all kinds of things. Some people have issues with neck. So we're gonna do neck, shoulders, arm, spine, core, and legs, like 10, 12-minute workouts, and call them yoga bites, like a little bite of
So,
yoga.
okay, let me
Judy,
just,
Judy is still here. Judy asked me for more interactive type stuff. She likes my counter exercise video. So Judy, you're partially responsible for the yoga bites idea. I think it's real beneficial. It's helped my balance a lot. I started in a chair. I moved behind the chair. I had trouble doing the things when I was behind the chair. When I got better and better, because I kept wanting to rely on the chair. So I talked to a couple of yoga teachers, my daughter included, who's been teaching 30 years, and it was suggested I push the chair away, and now I went from not being able to do it in the chair to I can just stand up and go right into warrior. And I found the chair really, at some point, it was necessary to get where I'm at, but at some point it started holding me back because my brain wanted to touch it all the time. And I had this feeling I couldn't do it without the chair unless I pushed it. I only pushed it a foot farther because I kind of am a big believer in safety, so I keep it nearby in case something should happen. I've also started taking Tai Chi, which is also very good for balance.
So I just want to emphasize that whether you can stand or sit, use a chair by standing or sitting in it to do yoga, there are so many benefits to the concept of yoga beyond just doing a warrior or any kind of pose. And I'm sure you've addressed that in some of the yoga classes you've done. But if you'll indulge me, I want to just tell you a couple things. So there's something called Yoga Nidra, and you don't need to go to a yoga class to do that, but there are some apps that you can use that offer meditation. And through those apps, one of them is called Yoga Nidra, which is really kind of a heavy sleep state, but you're not really sleeping. You allow your body to succumb by being guided by someone talking you through some relaxing poses. And I just want to share with you, because over the summer, I learned about this study that was done that showed through fMRI how people that were doing yoga nidra, which is like this deep, deep relaxation, showed differences in their brain function. And it does highlight meditation, but I will mention that meditation doesn't mean just saying the word Om for 60 minutes over and over again. So I want to ask that you indulge me just for a moment. Those of you that are having your cameras on, you can leave your cameras on. You can turn your cameras off, but we're going to take like a minute or two to just do a little bit of thought meditative work, and then 2 or 3 minutes to do some yoga that isn't requiring flexibility, Carla, like you said, and highlighting again that even by breath and focus and concentration, you're changing your brain. You're allowing yourself to go within and not worry and anticipate or dwell.
Can
Okay.
you spell Yoga Nidra?
Yes. Y-O. Want me to put it up on the screen again?
Been in the chat.
Okay. And if you have the app Insight Timer, so I'm going to write Insight Timer is a free app that has tons and tons of meditations that are either music and or guided. And some of them are called Yoga Nidra, which is it's not, oops, not you Nidra, Yoga Nidra, which is a form of yoga that's just very, very restorative, if not still. But it's just reaching a level of quiet and meditation without saying, oh. Okay. So Stephanie is going to take a Yoga Nidra class. And think about it. While someone's holding a crazy pose like that man I showed you, yes, that's great for his body, for the physical practice, but there are other benefits also. So if everybody could just find a comfortable seat, you can, if you're standing, you can stand. Just don't chop the green onions right now, Carly, while we're going to focus on just notice where your sit bones are making contact with what's beneath them. Maybe you're sitting on a hard chair. Maybe you're sitting on a couch. Or maybe you're sitting back and reclining, but feel your sit bones. Maybe you have to wiggle from side to side a little bit, but find those bony points in your glute area and sort of draw your navel to your spine. And maybe your sit bones will be more engaged. And then come back to neutral position with your belly. Draw your shoulders the best you can up towards your ears so that you're reducing the distance from your chin to your chest. Feel the tension there. And then, as though I was next to you, pressing your shoulders away, drop your shoulders away from your ears and let them feel heavy. And begin to notice your pinky toes. Think about where they are in your shoe or in your sock, or maybe you're not wearing any. Think about the nail on the pinky toe. And maybe you feel the back of your calves. Just relax the whole lower body. Relax your jaw so that your mouth feels a little bit more open. And relax your eyebrows. And begin to see a color behind your eyelids. Notice what you see. Maybe you feel like it's dark, but maybe you imagine some bright, cheery color forming in your mind. Or maybe the darkness persists. And watch that color travel from your eyelids all the way down your throat, through your chest, through your digestive system, your pelvis. The color is going towards your quads and the back of your legs, your hamstrings, and your knees. The color is traveling to the shins and down to your ankles. And now it's coming along the top of your feet and landing at your pinky toes. And just see the color. Maybe wiggle your toes. Notice the sounds around you. Wiggle your toes, whichever ones wiggle the best. Take a breath so big through your nose. And you feel your belly come toward the computer screen. And then blow everything out through your mouth. Take one more breath in through your nose. Feel your chest expand, your ribs come wide, and exhale through your mouth. Once again, blow everything out. Shh. Find stillness. What does the silence sound like? And then begin to wiggle your fingers and flutter your eyelids open if you've closed them. And notice if you feel just a little sense of calm. If you engaged in it, I congratulate your maybe discomfort doing so. And I actually relaxed myself by guiding you all. My body feels still. And that's the power of breath and visualization without even moving your body. We did really good brain health work. Take your movable hand and move it to a wrist, the opposite wrist. So if you have a weak right arm, take your left hand to your right wrist. If you have two good working arms, grab whichever wrist feels good and hold tight to your wrist. And then ever so slightly with your strong arm, bring your weaker or both arms up to shoulder height. And reach them just a little bit and see how much of a reach you can get, how much movement you get in your shoulder. And once you've reached that maximum right there, just take a slight, ever so slight pull. Like with Jerry, you'd pull on your left hand just a little to get a side body stretch on the right. Try to keep your hips and sit bones planted on the ground beneath you. And then come back to center and drop very slowly both arms down. Draw your chin towards your chest and feel your neck be heavy. And maybe with one good hand, put it to the back of your head and very slightly drop your head a little bit closer to your chest with the weight of your hand. Release your hand from the back of your head and shake your head from side to side. And then slowly lift your chin and nod your head front and back, up and down, yes and no. And know that you always have the power to chill out what's around you by simply sitting and coming back to your breath and doing one or no stretches with one of your limbs to bring the blood flow and awareness to your brain that those limbs exist. And that's part of yoga. And I believe that doing it, even just for 5 minutes a day, is a way to do good things for your brain that's ever, 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 forever changing. So I opened my eyes and see that we're at our time. You can show yourselves if you'd like, if you turned your videos off. You can ask me any questions and know that this last slide that I have is for you to note that when doctors or therapists give you a prescription for a medication or rehab, give one to yourself. That self-care, which you're all doing so much of, is something that's non-negotiable, and that anyone that you live with also needs that prescription too. We all have to take time for ourselves and be selfish from time to time. So with that, you can stick around and ask me any questions. I'm available if you'd like to talk offline, but I just wanted to impart my powerful belief that people after experiencing a stroke can certainly do yoga and be healthy, even if it's not in a conventional way. Thank you for letting me join this group of buddies. You are a great group of people who support each other, I know. And if it's okay, maybe I'll put something on your Facebook page just about some other ideas I had that we just didn't get to, because everyone contributed so well. I love having a conversation instead of just talking by myself. Anyone have any last words?
I have a quick, it's more of a comment than anything. I find when I do these kinds of things, like the relaxation that's guided, I find right away I yawn, and the tone of my affected side kicks in really strongly. So a lot of the times I am focusing on releasing the tone, and then the time goes by and I it's over. So I spend most of the time with tone, trying to relax it again.
It's so interesting, and I'm not a scientist, and maybe Bruce, you can contribute, but to me, Mindy, that's saying, so this fight or flight, like our sympathetic nervous system keeps us reactive, right? Then as soon as you go into the relaxation mode, maybe your dominant left side relaxes. It's succumbing, which invigorates, which activates the right side to bring that tone on since the left side has calmed down. So normally you're focused so much on keeping your left side as the primary moving muscle. But if you are relaxing and feeling that sensation that you described, I bet you it's because the right side is now, wait, I'm here too, but I just can't do what you're asking me to do as easily. So it's becoming more tonic.
I like that theory.
There are
Question.
there are there are
What?
left and right, excuse me, there are left and right sides of the brain, but also what you're talking about is your autonomic nervous system, which has two divisions. There's the sympathetic nervous system, and that's the fight or flight. When you're stressed, your heart accelerates, you breathe more rapidly, your blood pressure goes up, and there is the parasympathetic nervous system.
Mhm.
And that's when you relax and calm down. That's after the emergency is over. Now, both the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous systems deal with the peripheral part of your body. They control the heart, the lungs, blood pressure, and so on. They're separate neurons going to all of these portions of your body that release different neurotransmitters. One neurotransmitter makes it speed up, the other makes it slow down. And those are not exactly related to different hemispheres of the brain.
Progress. As you're getting responses in, be checking them.
Well, after my stroke, I would yawn and my affected arm, which I couldn't get off my lap, would go all the way up in the air and then it'd float back down and I couldn't lift it again. And I was told it was a reflex. It's interesting, Mindy, that's because you're 2 years out. So when you get tone when you yawn.
When I yawn, yes.
Yes, most people do. Their affected arm will raise or shake. That is a normal effect of yawning after a stroke. It engages the increased muscle tone. I'm not sure what the neuroanatomy of that is, but that happens. It happens to
Hmm.
me still. Yes.
Does it only happen if you've had some kind of brain insult, or when anybody yawns, do you have that increase in tone?
No, it's just when you've had a brain insult,
Oh,
a TBI or a stroke. Mhm.
wow, it's interesting.
Mhm.
Really interesting to have your arm go all the way up in the air and then come all the way back down. And you can't lift it off your quads. Can't lift it at all, but it just went up and back. I was told it was a reflex, and nobody's ever really been able to harness it in any way to get movement out. Maybe because of the different parts of the brain
All
being
right.
responsible.
I'm noticing the time that I have to go to my next session, but I will be available for sure to talk more. But I think we should all look at Mindy's painting. Is that allowed, Mindy?
Well, real quick, can you give us your contact number in case we want to use your services?
Certainly.
Yeah, she can put it in
Which,
chat.
Um, Mindy, are you able to show us either of
what
them?
the, this, I
Yeah.
just started when we were talking, I
I
just
know.
started. When the workshop happened, I don't know. Can you see it?
Yes. Oh my, what inspired that?
I'm into mixed media these days, which means um uh doing skin tones and then doing clay. So I'll
Uh-huh.
do clay for her hair after. So
Uh-huh.
we'll see how it goes. My
Amazing.
my granddaughter is the inspiration for it with her beautiful, beautiful hair. So
That's okay, hold on. That's beautiful. I mean, I see the difference. I'm sorry I shared the screen. Thank you, Brian. I'm gonna put my email here on my website. Here, I'm gonna put Abbe Simon. Yeah, send me a message with any questions you have.
Okay, also for people who are here and all people on YouTube, either watching live right now or when I upload the video, I will put all of Abby's contact information, anything she wants, any links
I'm gonna put it
in the
right here.
description below the video.
Here,
And
I'm gonna just do
I'll go
this.
back and do it well, I usually take the live stream offline when I put up the regular edited video. It may already be, I can't remember
I'm
if
gonna
I
do it right
put
here.
it in there or not. Anyway, for those out in YouTube land, look in the description below this video, you click see more and it'll bring up a whole big old
And here,
chart.
yeah, here's the website. And then my email, thank you, is right here again. Abbe Simon at iCommunicare. NC. I'm in North Carolina. I would love to know where you all are. Are you?
Where in North Carolina are you?
I know. Thanks for asking, Bruce. Is that you all got that? Jerry, did you get it?
Yes, thank you.
My pleasure. I am not in the mountains. I am in the Triangle area, Chapel Hill, but we're all doing our best to send things to the western part of the state. Where are you located, Bruce?
I'm in Appleton, Wisconsin, but I lived in North Carolina for a year. I lived in Raleigh, North Carolina for a year. I spent a year working for the neurophysiology branch of the neurotoxicology division of the Environmental Protection Agency in a laboratory in Research Triangle Park.
Can you say that 5 more times?
That 5 more times.
That was funny. That was actually funny. Thank you for getting out of my parasympathetic state and getting me all back roused now.
You're welcome.
Well, it was really a pleasure. And just remember, yes, it's not great having had a stroke, but there's so much positive potential and progress that you will always be able to make as long as you're motivated and committed and willing.
Yes, I probably should be committed.
Yeah. Right. Maybe we should have a comedy hour, Ralph, or some kind of happy hour with jokes.
Right.
We did a laughter is medicine, and Dr. Hetzler and Mindy both did like little routines. Mindy has always wanted to be a stand-up comedian. And we loved her jokes. She's also she was a motorcycle rider, and she had some good biker humor.
Mindy, do you have a place that social media has your artwork that people could look at?
Mindy Art, yes.
Mindy ART.
Yeah, if you just Google that, you'll find me.
Mindy
Art?
RS.
That's on Instagram, Mindy Art, or Facebook. It's Mindy Sinclair at gmail.com.
Okay.
Yeah. So you could find me on there too.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ralph, for allowing me to join your group today.
Well, no, thank you for presenting.
I'll see you guys soon, I hope.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Do all you can with what you have, in the time you have, in the place you are. Do all you can. Do all you can.